Who doesn't love it when really good things happen? And obviously, the sooner they happen, the better. So, I've always found it very fascinating how people accept the default setting of negative experiences, but you always need a justification for something good to occur. So, when I was really young, and I was really young, when I was younger and I was working, I remember one coworker came into work and she went, "Why are you happy?" I was like, "Why wouldn't I be?" She's like, "Well, we just started our shift." And she's like, "And it's Monday." I said, "You know, it's funny. I was miserable 2 weeks ago on a Monday. You just comforted me. But when I come in smiling and happy, it's like I need a reason to be happy. That makes no sense. Your default setting should be joyful. And, your mood can change very quickly. So I feel like if you have a really bad day, to counteract that negative experience, you should go buy a lottery ticket or, do something, ask someone out, like something that would cheer you up, buy yourself flowers or whatever. So it's not that something good happens. It's the period of time in which it takes it to unfold. And if we could have some control over that, it's very empowering. So, speaking of which, something really good did happen to me. I came upon this book at a used bookstore. I've never heard of the author, Chuck Spizzano. He's PhD, he's a therapist. I think he's a doctor of psychology. Yes, author, seminar leader, lecturer, and visionary leader. Love it. And this book is obviously 30 Days to Find Your Perfect Mate. This is quite the statement. Not because it says, oh, in this period of time, you're going to find this thing. It's quite the guarantee to say perfect mate, not just any mate, a perfect mate. And actually, I'm pretty impressed. So I always want to share everything with the world. And I'm going to go set a very ambitious standard for myself on Patreon. God willing, I'm able to finish it. I'm going to try to do all 30 days and put the entire program on the Patreon to see if it actually works. And the reason I'm very impressed is it can be used for anything. So, in the introduction and in the before you begin section, he does discuss through his, over 2 decades, I think 23, 24 years of talking to people. At the time this book was written is 1994, and it's very impressive because he mentioned some things 31 years ago that are very, very relevant today, but that it can be used for anything. Basically, when you set upon the path to reach your desire, you unfold new versions of yourself, and usually we inadvertently uncover the need for some type of healing. So basically, he explains you could start doing this program to find the perfect lover to be happy, but you actually fix your health or you improve your finances or you come upon more opportunities. So it's about being open to the world, and obviously we live in an interdependent universe. So I feel that even if you are seeking for, like, let's say, searching for romantic love, you're in relationship to everything around you all the time, especially yourself. So you might perfect this version of yourself. You might give yourself a new life. Okay, anything's possible. So I'm excited to see you. But I wanted to read out some of the really cool parts. So it says this book is meant to be an exploration and adventure. That's a good start. Um, there is a wealth of tried and accurate information which has worked for thousands of people in this practice. This exploration of your mind can save you 2 decades because he's obviously done it for that long or more, much longer. As I said, this was written 30 years ago. This exploration of your mind can save you pain, time, and money, and of course, assist you in finding your perfect mate. To put it simply, the process in this book will work if you want it to, much like everything else in life. One of my favorites is Reverend Ike, and he says it works if you work it. And he says if you don't work your mind, you'll work your behind. So Abraham Hicks always says the big problem about humans is they're very sloppy thinkers. They don't really think for themselves. They tend to think what everyone else thinks, and they are justified in thinking that they're right because they have basically confirmation bias. So this is going to, more than inviting love, it looks like this is going to make you a more independent thinker, which means you just become a much more authentic version of yourself. You'll get to know yourself a lot better. Okay. Trust your intuition. Whatever pops into your mind is the easiest way, short of hypnosis, to bypass the well defended conscious mind. So clearly, a lot of people that come to me and watch my content and things like that, I don't even like that word content. I don't know. Watch me talk to myself, basically, talk to my laptop. Uh, we're aware that you can, as we call, like, hack reality, though that's such a corny word. But you can use the laws of the realm that we live in and exist in to work in your favor. I feel that nobody is born with an instruction manual on how life on earth works. We're either wise or we attain wisdom through suffering. But why suffer if you could just read a book and better yet, have someone read it for you and you know, boil it down. So the mind at deeper levels is almost completely metaphoric rather than literal. Thus, your intuition is a powerful, effective tool. And I would also say, if you're a spiritual person or a religious person, reading your holy books like the Bible metaphorically, and that's why Jesus spoke in parables, because it's meant to be decoded. Okay. And once you figure it out, once you unlock it, you can make sense of the whole text and you can make sense of the world and life and the seen and the unseen realm. When you use your intuition, it creates a natural flow of life giving energy, which is helpful to you and others. The thinking mind and memory are tools, mere house guests of your ego. Remember, ego, this will come up quite a bit. They support the prevailing system of personality within you, which is why your memory so conveniently supports the story of your life, but does not necessarily have anything to do with the ultimate truth or even the relative truth. We've discussed the power of narrative and the storytelling power of human beings in many other videos. I'm not going to go into it again, but if you know the main story I use, you'll know it. It's very, very helpful because it is about romance. Get to know your intuitive mind. It will help you move outside of dissociative independence and into partnership or interdependence. Okay, we live in an interdependent universe. That's just how nature works. That's just what it is. Okay. For example, I ate some raspberries from the garden this morning and I thought it's so amazing. No fruit consumes itself, nor is it consumed by the plant that spawns it. An apple is not consumed by an apple tree. A tree does not consume another tree. The river does not drink water, it doesn't consume itself. Humans consume everything around them. We have a very destructive consciousness. It's very interesting, but we really believe we need these external things to nourish ourselves and survive. But in an interdependent universe, I was like, well, who watered that raspberry shrub? Nature might, but I live in the city. A human being watered it. And then it's like the cycle goes around. Like I nourish it, and then I nourish myself, and then I go back and nourish the land, and then I nourish myself. So that's a nice way to look at it instead of having an overtone of predation and being really predatory in consciousness. And this is important because he does mention, and this is so he mentions the higher mind. When he refers to the higher mind, he's using a metaphor to describe an experience available to all of us from within. And he does mention basically to change anything in your life, you must change yourself, which, as we know in spiritual circles, this is true. Some people, because of their religious background, are happier using certain words for God. I'm personally comfortable with the word God. I know a lot of people aren't, but I like that word, and I like its English. I like it in English. It's nice. I'm happy to use Allah. He says you can use higher power, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Holy Spirit, etc. They are all referring to the same internal experience. So I'm not here to debate you about external belief, internal experience. And this is why it's important because external things have been interpreted for us. Okay, so you just do it yourself. Okay, there's also, yes, so he mentions it's important that once you find your perfect mate, or in this case, this book can, or any self help work or reflective work, shadow work, whatever you do, okay, can inadvertently uncover other things. As I mentioned, it can lead to healing, it can lead to prosperity, moving your body, whatever. That once you get there, that is the beginning. And I shared this book with my friend this afternoon, and she said, "That's funny because she said she's a coach, and she said my coach was discussing things about like graduation. Like you feel very differently after versus leading up to it. There's like this celebratory event, you're waiting to hit that target. But actually, when you finish university, that's only the beginning. You have to go get employed. You have to go pay off debt. You have to figure out how to use your knowledge and this qualification. Okay. It doesn't just happen. So, this is the way I've always seen marriage personally. Even when I was really young, I thought marriage is the beginning. It's the beginning of your life because once you merge with another person very deeply, that's when you actually start learning. That's why a lot of surface level things in the modern age are not very fruitful for most people, I would say. At least that's the feedback like we're getting now, societally and through a lot of studies. So basically, it's once you find the perfect person, that's when the work actually begins. And these 30 days should be a cakewalk, okay? Once you meet the person, he mentions this is when you start learning about your attitude toward teamwork, commitment, stability, sharing, how you deal with pain, how you deal with conflict, okay? Uh, really, it's pretty impressive. So, growth. So he says relationships offer the fastest means of growth and the biggest pitfalls. That's what makes relationships the central point of our lives with regard to happiness or distress or any of the other key aspects of life such as health, money, or success. You don't have to believe the principles in them uh, for them to work for you. If you fully believe them, you wouldn't need this book. And I would argue you would need anything, you know? Like when people say, should I do affirmations? I'm like, well, if you really believe the thing, you wouldn't have to affirm it. It would just happen to you. Okay. So creating your perfect mate is just the beginning. Then it is time to learn of love, intimacy, forgiveness, commitment, communication, letting go of all the other powerful lessons which enable a relationship to grow and unfold. Otherwise, you will create perfect mate after perfect mate without being able to be intimate, to love, and to enjoy your love. So it's important to recognize whether you are so independent or immature that you pillage the opposite sex. All the taking does is gratify the ego. And this is a kind of like a stumbling block to love, I feel, in the modern age that we're like, oh, just swipe, just sleep with another person, just block them and find another person, right? Now, I say this with a lot of discernment because I'm a woman. I get approached, I get prospects, but if they're disrespectful to me, I'm not tolerating that, right? If they break their word to me, I'm not tolerating that. If they can't do the most basic, simple thing like plan a date, not be rude to you, actually show up to the date, not show up empty handed, they have to bring you something. I'm old school. You've got to bring flowers, you got to bring a gift. Don't be lazy. You got to be able to pick up the phone and call people. Like, you're not a turd. Like, you're not a child. You know what I mean? You're not a bum. Don't act like a loser. Okay. So, I feel like I'm not saying to stick with people who treat you badly or don't know how to treat you, obviously. But this modern thing of just disposing and discarding of people all the time has us all exhausted. And that is done for ego gratification. That has nothing to do with love. I think a lot of people that are like, I'm looking for love, I can't find it. And then you talk to them and they're like, oh yeah, I dated that girl for 5 weeks and then I found a better looking one. It's like, well, maybe, the girls are not the problem. Maybe you're just jumping around too much, Or when I hear this a lot, women are like, he had open toed shoes. Why should I look at your toes? I don't care if it's 40 degrees Celsius and we're all roasting. Put some socks on. It's like that's not a really big deal when you consider. Somebody asked me this week. She was really sweet. She's a tall lady like myself, and she said, "Would you date like a shorter man?" And I said, "Well, first of all, I've never been a heightist. I say this all the time on here, but my logic has always been, when I look at a mate, I look at what my life will look like 10 years from now. Your height should not factor in. If you treat me better than anybody treats me and you promise me the world, but you give me the world, you're not just talking, you actually do the stuff from the jump, because time is of the essence. Life is for the living. I was always serious, even as a teenager. I said that doesn't really matter. Like, does it matter? I don't think it matters. I don't Everybody's different. But I know men also place a lot of importance on physical appearance for women, naturally. um, yeah, just like try to take your mind beyond the limit that society has put on it. I think a lot of people's preferences are actually programmed into them. I don't think they actually prefer that thing. I think if you sit with your thoughts, you'll find that it really boils down to what chemistry is to you, how you want to live. I talk to a lot of religious people. They always come up, they say they don't have a problem marrying a person who's maybe not from their faith, but they said it would just be easier. Like once you get kids, it's just easier and da 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 da. So I'm like, then that's your guiding path. You go with that, but you stick to it. Okay. So that's the thing. Um, so you have to basically be responsible. So the book opens with a lot of responsibility over one's circumstances, right? So I'm not saying like, don't victimize yourself. Don't be like, oh, the statistics are terrible for marriage and dating. That those Don't look at that. If it makes you feel crummy, don't look at it. I know all those. I rant about them all the time on TikTok. It's not But if you want to be an exception to the rule, you must be exceptional. You must yourself be a person of excellence, okay? So, we have a great name for this kind of taking, he says. But he also says, when we do this when we haven't yet recovered from our early wounds in our relationships or family. So, this is going to hit a nerve with a lot of people, obviously. You don't have to be perfect to have a relationship. If that were so, none of us would have one. But as you go into a relationship, recognize your need for healing and be willing to let your partner help you. Surely the major purpose of your life is happiness, and this is a relationship. What? And this is a relationship. What? And this is a relationship is able to provide. Oh, God, I should have finished that sentence. That makes perfect sense. A relationship can provide happiness, but you have to know why you want one. I say this all the time on here and all my readings, Patreon, everything, okay? All my social media. It's like you have to know why you want what you want. That's how you like crack open the door. So let's get into the first exercise. Okay. There's more I'd like to like pull out of this. This is like very, very compelling. I found these principles are just generally good things to know as you move through life. And yes, there's an opening part here about the mind having the ability to heal, realize truth, solve difficult problems, much, much, much more. So you're basically looking to alter your outlook. Okay. And it starts with you. You're looking to alter how you perceive things so that you can get the thing that you want. And you must be kind of detached. You must be relaxed in a place of non resistance. So if you basically read any book, not this book, any book, and you're here we go, awakening your psychic powers. I love Edgar Casey. So also I've put books up on my Etsy. If you're around, you want to, I put like just, I don't know, a few, seven. I've got, I mean, it's the first day of Mercury retrograde. I had to push this off screen. Look at that. Pure chaos and disorder. Books all the time, everywhere. But I was like, I'm allowed to be a little messy. You can see my background. I'm not fussed about it. But anyway, it's only going to work for you to the extent that you're willing to change, right? So it's like if you're saying, I'm reading this specifically to get psychic powers. But if it unlocks an amazing career opportunity, maybe that's going to take you on the path. If you're reading this to get love, but again, you end up curing a health issue, go with that. Okay. So the rest of these are going to be on my Patreon. So I don't want to go into it too much, but I really like the philosophy and the principle. And I think it's a very pragmatic thing to say. To get what I want, I have to change. Like Louise Hay started pretty much all of her affirmation tapes with, I'm willing to change. And I love that. I'm willing to change. You don't know where it's going to take you, but you have to have this flexibility spiritually and mentally to enjoy the journey. Okay. Because, like I was mentioning, my friend used the example of graduating, and I thought that's so funny because I never made a big deal out of any of my graduations. I actually didn't go to some of them. I was like, which one? I didn't go to one of them. But anyway, I was like, I never really cared. I thought it was like a burden. Why do I have to show up? Just give me the paper. No one cares. The only reason I did put the time in was to get this thing after I'm done doing this. And I really believe that because I wasn't enjoying the journey, the destination just kept being kind of slippy and weird. So I had to change myself. Okay, day one. It has a lot to do with writing. So I have it somewhere again. The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's very, very good. You could even do that. That's a really good morning pages exercise. Okay. Talk about this constantly. Writing things down is very, very helpful. There's a clear mind body connection. When you put pen to paper with your hand, it focuses you in a way that other things don't. So things like typing, texting, people I make vision boards and stuff. They don't work for me. They never have, honestly. Not once, I don't think. But I'm just different that way. Okay. So you have to find out what works for you. But generally speaking, the written word is very, very potent in that it causes you to concentrate exceptionally at a higher rate than you would when you're just clicking, clacking on your laptop. Okay, I've tried both. I have found that the laptop doesn't really do much. So I have to test it. I'm kind of like critical like that. Okay. Key, you can also keep a daily diary of your progress, which is pretty similar to the morning pages, but this is interesting. So just start from the jump, okay? Even if you do this one exercise, just check it out. Number one, choose a problem in your life and write it down as specifically and concretely as possible. Okay, just pick something. But notice he says a problem. It doesn't have to be singleness. It could be that you can't find a good pair of shoes for the summer. You don't know how you're going to pay for a vacation. You really need a massage. You need a good result from the doctor or something. Two, experience any feelings associated with it. What do you feel when you think about being single, broke, uninspired, unmotivated, lost in life, stuck in life? That's a big one. People feel stuck. They go through seasons of dips and they last years. I think no one prepares you when you're young. They think a bad day happens once in a blue moon. You could be stuck for months or years. Three, imagine you are willing and have the courage to find the solution. So if you want to make, a friend of mine's gunning for a promotion right now, they have to do some serious prep and research to get that thing. Are you willing to do that? Like Louise Hay said, I'm willing to change. Are you willing to become the person that's now making 200K versus the person that's currently making 120 or something? Okay. 4, and have the courage to find solutions. Sorry. Like a lot of times people talk about winning the lottery. So where I live, you have to publicly, I think, declare your identity and things like that, your age, where you're from, and your full name is published in the news, etc. You go, you hold up a massive foam check and like take pictures. So it's like everybody wants to win the lottery, but do you have the courage to let the world know you've won it? That's a very different experience. Okay, 4, imagine turning this entire problem over to your higher mind, or I would say to God. I give it to God. Let go and let God, okay? There are only two minds, your higher mind and your personality mind. The personality mind is totally devoted to making up a story about you and your specialness, but this is used in an egotistical way, okay? So basically, when you victimize yourself, there's this like sort of societal thing where it's like, oh, don't shame people. It happens to everyone. Or, you're allowed to feel those things. Yeah, obviously, you're allowed to feel like, duh, okay, we're alive. No shit. You know what I mean? So someone's like, oh, I'm just single. I always get dumped. It always happens to me. Me, 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 me. That doesn't help you. I'm not shaming anyone, but I'm not going to enable the continuation of their inner dialogue, which is truly a form of self abuse. Okay. When we understand, like the Course in Miracles discusses, now I'm going, see, I'm getting mad. I need to chill. I should do this for 30 days, see if I can just be less type A. That would be great. But the Course in Miracles talks, I have it somewhere again. It just got, it is right here. um, Yeshua, Jesus talks about this, where he says, when you realize that the only way that you hurt your fellow brother and sister of humanity is not through physical violence, you can just as much hurt them through attack thoughts and words and feelings. These things are just as distressing as physical abuse. Then you'll understand how important it is to purify your mind, okay? So this is, I think, just like the best thing you could ever read. Please read the Course in Miracles. I'm not done, but so far I'm very impressed, of course. And I'm changed for it. It's made me gracious. So there we go. But yes, so the specialness is referring to that, to be like, it's hard for me because I'm shy. It's hard for me because I'm different. That's arrogant. That's an incredibly arrogant thing, to parade in your own mind, to constantly have that getting airtime as you're broadcasting it to life. It's going to respond to you, and it was going to respond to you negatively. So stop it, because you're just hurting yourself, right? Not that it offends anyone, it's just hurtful to your own self. It's not a wise thing to do. So basically, like if I saw a person like that in my brain, I think like that's like if I saw them bleeding in the street, I'd go up and I'd help them. But when I hear them talking about themselves poorly, I cringe. It hurts me. I don't want that for you. Okay. So you're making yourself special when you feel a lack of self-worth. The higher mind, or I would say God, which knows your real value, only wants to give you the grace to heal all your problems. So get rid of victim mentality. I don't care, people oftentimes are like, it's hard for me because the economy is hard, blah, blah, like we're all in the same boat. But I just tell myself, the economy is what it is. There's always been hard times, but I'm about my Father's business, and business is good. Thank God. I just like talk to myself. But I believe in God. But you find something you believe in and soothe yourself, comfort yourself. 5, be willing to do anything you are inspired to do to shift the problem. Whenever you think of the past, just know it is being handled for you. Getting the answer is easy. Not getting the answer is difficult. So go through steps 1, 2, 3, write those out, and then imagine turning the problem over to God. Be willing to do anything inspired. But I love that he used the word inspired, because note, he didn't say motivation. I think in this modern kind of like hustle culture, we have this big thing about being motivated and ambitious. But motivation is very draining. And this one, very picky about words. Words have power, okay? And we use language in a very interesting way. But inspired action is still action, but it's action that won't tire you and will have a return. It will have a reward, okay? Return on investment. Motivation is like a gamble. So if you're like pushing yourself too hard, you'll burn out. But if you're inspired to work hard, you'll be okay. So just know the difference, and give yourself grace, give yourself some credit, and know that you can change your life basically in 30 days. And I think not just with this book, but anything, you take anything, a tool is useless if you don't use it. So if you apply it, it should work. But thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a beautiful weekend, and I hope to see you on Patreon as we continue the other 29 days. And I'm setting this inspired action for myself to see if I could record all the other 29 or all 30 as of this video and actually upload them, because I'm a facilitator, but I'm not good at finishing things. So I have to actually finish once I start. So that would be great. So thank you for listening. And I hope that you join me on this journey and have a beautiful weekend, and go check my books on Etsy. And yeah, if you'd like a reading, gurugrit.com. Thank you so much. I love you, and bye for now.